currently president and CEO of Populous Inc. We develop mobile apps. My background is I'm from Carrollton. I've never, wasn't really a very good student. I didn't graduate high school, but I do have some college. I went back later. It's not that I have anything against academia. It just didn't work out for me. I have a daughter at Yale who I'm very proud of. She's incredible. But for me, it just didn't work, being in the classroom. And I've always had little businesses since my first one since I was 13. So that's kind of where I knew I wanted to be. But I wasn't really focused until my daughter was born. So I went from trying to figure out ways how to not have to make money to actually figuring out ways to make money. So I think my early 20s is when I really got focused. And I started my first company in Carrollton. It was a government services firm. We collected delinquent property taxes and fines and fees for municipalities and government in the state of Georgia. So I owned that for 11 years and got just kind of restless in that, and the market was right, so I ended up selling that company and doing well. I sold the company for 7 figures, which I'm very proud of. That was in 2005, and then from there I took a little time off, and then I got into real estate development, which I loved. I loved doing real estate development. We developed condos on the lake. Anywhere we could put condos on the water, that's what we did. And then around 2009, the bottom fell out of everything. I had put my money in places I didn't understand, like bank stock, because everybody was doing that at the time. And to make a long story short, was pretty much broke by around 2010. So I was sitting around trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And my wife came in, and she was real encouraging. She just said, "What do you like? What do you want to do?" So I said, "I like games. I like video games." And she says, "Well, do something with video games." So I decided I was going to develop a game for the iPad, which at that time I don't believe it was out yet. It was coming, and I knew about it, and I just started getting into apps. So I had no background in programming or software or anything like that. But she encouraged me to go forward with it. So I started teaching myself some basic programming, Objective-C, which is what you code in for iOS. And I already had some design skills just from owning my own business for so long, doing brochures, and I always did my own promotional stuff. I always built my own websites and things like that. So I had a little bit of a background in some of that stuff. I was always kind of techie, but I was never even came close to coding or anything. So anyway, I taught myself how to do a little bit of coding and put this premise together, an iPad game based on a game my kids love, which was Hungry Hippos. And the game was called Monsters Love Gum, and the idea was that a family or 4 people could sit around the iPad and just like Hungry Hippos, grab the balls and tally it up at the end and so on and so forth. Well, I worked on this game for about 5 months and kind of hit a ceiling with my programming capabilities. I wanted it to do more, and I was too old at this point to start learning something new. So I got on a website called Odesk to come and help me finish this game to kind of fulfill my vision there. So in a couple of months we finished it off, and I got it on the App Store just in time for the iPad to come out, and the app got featured by Apple, which is, I didn't know at the time how lucky I was. And in the first week sold nearly 50,000 copies. So at the time I thought I'd made it. I'm a game developer, going to do this. So and it continued to make money after that. It's kind of a slope, pretty heavy slope that goes down, but it continued to make money. So I took that money and I hired a team of developers in India, and I got a full-time designer to help me, and I started making more games. Well, they were all flops. I spent the next 6 to 8 months working with different things that being featured in Apple made all the difference. And I started to learn about how difficult it was to do an app and make money on an app or a game. And I started to teach myself about marketing and really struggled with this. And the last game that I did had a little more success, because I was able to market it and understood marketing. But about that time, there was an article about what I was doing in the Times-Georgian. my son had actually came up with the idea for the game, and that we did last. So the Times Georgia, and I don't know how they found out, but they thought that was an interesting concept. So they came out and they interviewed me and my son. So the game came out, it was marginally successful, but an old friend of mine, Jonathan Dorsey from the Carrollton CVB, had read the article. And he called me up and he said, hey, I'd like to do an app for the Convention and Visitors Bureau for Carrollton. I'd essentially like to take our visitors guide, printed guide, and you've seen those. They have places to eat and drink and dining, the big map that rolls out. It's like, I'd like to do a digital version of that. Can you do it? And I said, sure. So I got my team together. I said, all right, we're doing something a little different. Been contracted to build this app for the local tourism association. And we did, and he loved it. And Jonathan said, you know, my peers would love this. There's this convention coming up. It's called the Georgia Governor's Conference on Tourism. It's in 3 weeks. Here's this number. See if you can get there and go and show off this product that you did for me. And I did. I started a little side LLC. I contacted a buddy of mine who had just been laid off from the construction industry and said, do you want to go with me and try to sell this? If it pans out, we may have something. So we went to this conference, and it was like they were all starving and we had sandwiches. Everybody loved this app and wanted this app. And from there, Populous was born. So I kind of shut down what I was doing, my game development, and I moved into specializing, and I found my niche. So essentially what we do is tourism-related apps. So any destination marketing organization, Main Street, CVBs, anybody that has a location to sell, we build apps for them. Visitors guides, walking, driving tours, passports, contests, anything that we can do to help promote communities. So that's kind of what led me to where I am now and what we do. Really formulate that idea. Have a very clear picture of what you wanted. All the details from how you want it to look, how you want it to behave, how you want the navigation to be. Obviously what the end goal of the app is. And the next thing would be to find people that you trust. You want to surround yourself with good people. If you're coming out of West Georgia, chances are you may have to look at subcontractors. So getting online and finding people that have a good portfolio, a good history, high ratings on some of the subcontractor websites like Elance and Odesk. So finding the right people that you can trust, having a clear picture of what you want, but also trust in them. Since you're hiring the experts, they may have experience that they can guide you in different ways. Well, for us it's a little bit different because my clients give away free apps. So they have a marketing budget for their community and they want to come to me and they say, this is what I want. So I'll give them a quote, $6,000, $9,000, $10,000, whatever, and I'll build this app for you, and then they go out and market it. For me, I'm building apps as a third party for somebody who's giving them away for free. But if somebody wants to make money on it, what I learned from my days in game development is you got to do your market research and you've got to have to promote it. Apps can't be arbitrary anymore because there's so many of them. I feel like it needs to be utilitarian in some way. It needs to serve a need that's missing. Just like most business, if you're not fixing something or helping something with a problem, fixing a problem, how are you selling the product? So I look at apps as the same way. You need to be fulfilling a need, not to say you couldn't do something better. So if you can reinvent the wheel in the app world still. So if there's apps out there and you feel like that you can do it just a little bit better, sometimes that's the best idea, It goes on the App Store and you set the price. So there's a couple of ways you can make money. You can sell it for 99 cents or $1 or whatever you think it's worth. If it's a big utility app, you could sell it for $50. You could make it free and go with the ad model. So we've all played Candy Crush or something where you have the little ad banners. You can monetize it that way. Or you could do it for free and build a big user base and hopefully spin that off. Some of the biggest apps out there today, like Instagram, there was never going to be a way to monetize it but they were bought, I can't remember how much, I think $1 billion by Facebook. So, you know, there's a lot of ways to do it. So it depends on how you're setting your sites. So there's the paid model, there's the ad model, there's the model that you just have a much bigger picture in mind and you're an acquisition target. And I feel like I'm leaving something out. Oh, there's the freemium model. So we've all got the free app, and then but for 99 cents or whatever, you can buy coins, or so there's that model as well. So I would say there's 4 monetization models. I would say the biggest advice I could give somebody is don't play businessman or businesswoman. Be a businessman. People get really caught up in the logo and the signs and the shirts and the idea of I'm now own a business and I got a real business card or I got an Amex business card, and they forget to do the work. So I've seen a lot of people start out and they just want to play business person, but then they fail because they forget about the work. So I would say forget about all that other stuff, provide a great product, and then worry about being the businessman on the outside later. I look at like, we have this place in Carrollton called the Corner Cafe. And for the first 2 years, I remember, it's Chris Duffy that owns it. Their sign was printed on a printer. Like literally, they had no sign, it was taped up there. But the food was awesome, and it tastes exactly the same today as it did 20 years ago when they opened. And I think there may be only 2 other restaurants in the county that are tenured as long as them. But they always focus on the food. And the furniture's awful and the decor doesn't mean much, but that's kind of a great example. You know, Chris didn't play businessman, I'm a restaurateur. He just had great food all the time, and he's been in business for, I think, almost 25 years now. So anyway, that's my advice. Make a great product, let it speak for itself, and don't get caught up in the stuff that people get caught up in early on, which is playing business.